when most people hear economic development, they only consider the component perhaps that they're more aware of, or the area in which they're working. So for some people, employment is the first thing that comes up in their head, whereas for others, it's all about people getting into business. I don't think that there's a kind of cookie cutter answer to what is economic development. And in some ways, that's not a bad thing. It just means that whenever we're talking about, we need to define what element of it that we're talking about. There's a kind of broad sweep, well, it's about business, it's about employment, but ultimately it's about economic participation. So it's people being able to earn an income in some fashion, whether that's via going out to the workforce and participating in workforce, or whether it's actually working within a business itself. And then layered on that, I guess it's the needs that people have in order to be able to do that. So if we want a job, we need skills. How do we get those skills? If we're, and it depends where you are at the spectrum. So if you're someone young, it's about the education opportunities you have. Whereas it's someone older who wants to retrain, it's about, what things do they need to do to shift careers, for example. In business, it might be you've never worked in business before, so you want the basics. So you're looking for some fundamental coaching, maybe mentoring, or the like. Right through to people who are looking at advanced skills. So how do I expand my business? How do I take it to the next level? Pre-contact in Australia, everybody participated. You had a job, there was a sense of working in, for the greater good of the community, and some of that would be through the lenses that we know today, operating a business. It mightn't be for exchange of money, but it was certainly for exchange of goods and services. And the stuff that comes to mind is, the Gunditj Mara and the eel farming practices. That's widespread agricultural practice. It's not how we might view it from today's point of view, but it was agricultural practice. They smoked the product, they traded it with neighbours, and so, that's a fully fledged economy in action, which involves business taking place. It's really important that we continue to invest in the development of this sector, because it requires good leaders. Our community to progress in economic development, we really need to invest in leadership within that sector. But leadership is required to drive also, I see, a voice that's largely missing out of our community. If we think about almost any other subject across Aboriginal affairs, there's a peak organisation that exists. Aboriginal economic development doesn't have that same voice, and there's been attempts, and there's ongoing attempts to try and create that voice, but it is a silent one, and so it's only going to really emerge through strong leadership. So how we build the leadership voice that comes from out of that sector, so that we can create a more robust area. And I think when people start unpacking what's involved in economic development, they start seeing the number of Aboriginal people involved in business. They're quite surprised. And in some ways, it's surprised that something hasn't developed before now that it really provides that strong voice from that sector. When I look around at some of our Indigenous neighbours, say in New Zealand, and even other countries not dissimilar to Australia, there's probably a larger number of their Indigenous population getting into business. We need to build that here. I think the leadership is a part of that, but it's also fostering that it's okay to do that as well, so that getting into business is not at odds with our culture, making money is not at odds with our culture, and so being able to support and work with people through those issues.